fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Good evening, hello one and all, and welcome to the third edition of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series right here on Simspeed TV, and brought to you by Simfinity, RMS Race Management Service, RSW Graphics, and Apex Imagery. We're going on an expedition of the United States of America this season. 6 tracks, all located in the USA, and our first racetrack of the season is Barber Motorsports Park, 3.83 kilometers, 16 turns, vastly underutilized on the iRacing service. Going to be great to see how the TCRs stack up on this track today. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside me is Cameron Dance, and behind the scenes is Jay Kennedy, as always. And Cameron, I said in the top of the show there that underutilized this track, isn't it? But it is actually quite a good racetrack.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's one that you don't really commonly see used a lot. It is a difficult circuit for passing, I'll happily say that, but at the same time it actually really is a creative track, and it's really cool to drive around. So yeah, it kind of is a bit odd that it's a bit underutilized, but nevertheless we're giving it a crack today and seeing what TCR can do around here.
And with a new season brings new faces, new drivers, new teams, and when I say new faces, I really do mean new faces, because one of the cool things that Jay has been working on behind the scenes and has finally pieced together as we continue to innovate here on Simspeed on the iRacing service is the introduction of webcam feeds to Simspeed broadcasts, and we have 9 drivers supplying us with their feeds today. We've got John D. Miller, a new face to the series, Jake Sperry on the controller, as you would have just seen there, Martin Turner with the colourful hippie pants, Reese Gardner, Simon Mazzomo, Mia Ott in the bottom right, Scott Fontaine, Hinsey, and Seb Lesenberg in the top of the screen there. So we'll check in on those guys throughout the broadcast, and if you want to have your face on our broadcast, and join the SimSpeed Discord, and the links for each race will be up there on the screen. Qualifying is currently underway. Before we have a look at it, Cameron, let's remind our viewers of our schedule for this season.
Yeah, certainly. It's a fantastic schedule, all US-based this season, from the nice cold UK to the mild US. We've travelled to the other side of the world, but nevertheless, we've got Barber Motorsport Park, Lime Rock Park, Daytona International Speedway, the road course at night time as well, so that'll be quite fascinating to see how that works, and probably a lot of drafting going on. Summit Point Raceway for round 4, round 5, Belle Isle, and then rounding out the championship with Laguna Seca.
Yeah, and you can see it there. We're looking forward to Belle Isle to see how that one unfolds on the streets of Detroit. And of course, 3 free tracks in amongst that too to ease the burden on the wallet for the drivers. So let's look at qualifying. 6 minutes remain in it so far. Currently fastest is Brett Cananzi. Ryan Jarrett sits in second. This is Grant Madford, currently in 14th place at the moment. A best lap of a woman at 32.742. He is on attempt number 2. You get 3 laps in qualifying for this series to put down a marker. Generally, we see an improvement each and every lap from these drivers, because these TCR cars do have the new tyre model version 7, or now referred to just as the new tyre model, which really does showcase the downsides of cold tyres.
Yeah, it certainly does. It makes it all that much more challenging, and no real need to try and bang one out or make a slow outlap to save your tires or anything. It's literally go as hard as you possibly can for the first 2 laps, and then give it a red hot crack in the third lap. So we'll be their name to the top of the timesheets this time out. Obviously, a very cold track, actually, 25 degrees Celsius at the moment. So it's got a lot of grip, not too slippery either. It's not too much usage, but nevertheless, going to be quite a lot of close times, I reckon.
And Riley Preston, in fact, just propped up to the top by 0.003 of a second back to Kananzi. So the Evolution Racing Team Eclipse Simsports battle looks set to resume, but no Cooper Webster, not this round anyway. Jackson Harlow has returned after making just one round last season. Ryan Jerrick returns after coming up just short. He's sitting in 5th at the moment. Jordan Caruso there in 3rd. Top 5 spots, all ERT or Eclipse. Preston, Kananzi, Caruso, Burst, and Jarek at the moment. What was the story to those spiders? Were you here for that conversation yesterday, Cameron?
I do believe I was, and I do believe I was the one that actually somewhat found out the reasoning, and it's to do with the fact that the track actually resembles Charlotte's Web, which, much to many people's surprise, actually ends up being quite a surprise when you actually look at it from above. But yeah, it's quite the sight to see when you're going around the track in a car, and also from a spectator's point of view when you see a ginormous spider in the middle of the circuit. But nevertheless, it's actually does stand out and make this track quite unique compared to most other tracks where it's sort of bland and just hills and grass.
Certainly. And good to see John Miller making an appearance here, all the way from... Where is he from? Texas. USA, Texas is the club he is running under at the moment in the 055 machine. Of course, all these TCR cars are Audi RS 3s, RS LMS 3s. And Miller is one of our drivers with a webcam. He's running VR. He's also streaming on his own Twitch channel. If you want to go and check him out for his perspective of the race as he's coming towards the final few corners on the circuit. A lot of elevation change on this track, a lot of ups and downs, which does unsettle the car quite a bit too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's going to make it very, very challenging and very much a patience game for these drivers with the fact that it is front-wheel drive, so there's going to be a lot of understeer and a lot, especially through the final sector where you're just constantly turning in a solid direction and having to sort of wait, but also try and get on the gas as early as possible. So it's going to be quite the challenge. It's going to reward those who are a lot more patient and a lot more willing to sacrifice a little bit of time and speed for a little bit of gain at the end, but we'll see what happens regardless.
Jackson Susan Harlow's gone fastest out there with a 1 minute 29.860, 700ths of a second, separating himself and Jarek. Reese Gardner hasn't put a time down yet. He currently sits last out of all the drivers, just in behind Jake Sperry. Gardner's had 2 attempts so far, hasn't managed to record a lap time that was valid on either of them. And a big slide down the left handle there. And that car doesn't look particularly comfortable at his hands at the moment. Let's see, as we continue to watch him throwing it over the curbs, using all the track, very tricky section there as it goes to the left and then throws back down to the right, down the hill. If you get hit through the left as well, very easy to blindside someone through the next part of the track. Again, using all of the available racetrack and the curbs to try to shave as much time off as he can. But he's got to be careful not to get off track, otherwise he will be starting at the back of this field.
Yeah, he certainly will, and he doesn't have a lot of time as well. He's not going to get another lap here, so he can't really afford to end up messing this lap up. Very committed this lap over all the curbs and everything, so he's really giving it a proper go here is Reese as he comes through the final corner now, up and over the inside curb, right out to the outside edge as well. It comes across the line, and the time is going to be a 1:30.651, so puts himself P11.
Not a bad improvement after being 32nd for the session. 28 seconds remain in qualifying for race 1 of two races as always in this series, each and every round. We proceed in the evening with a 10-minute sprint, which is what's coming up in a moment. We'll have a 20-minute race afterwards with a 10-minute session to set the grid for that in between as well. The 20-minute race will feature a pit stop, but right now it's a straight-up sprint, and this is how the bumper field for round one will line up. Jackson Susan Harlow on pole from Jarek, Preston Kananzi off the second row, Caruso, Dean Ross 5th and 6th, and then Daniel Tao, Martin Turner, Nick Cummings, and Dylan Burse rounding out your top 10.
In P11 and P12, just behind outside the top 10, Reese Gardner, Kobe Williams, Ashley Norman, and Thomason's on 13th and 14th. 15th will be Mia Ott and Simon Mazzomo in 16th. So a awesome speed commentator row there, followed by John D. Miller in 17th. 18th, Michael Yip, and rounding out the top 20, Matthew Spencer. And of all people, teeing up inside that top 20, despite the fact that he was hopeless, Scott Fountain.
Wow. Benjamin Talia starting from 21st. Reese Hull in 22nd. Sam Ross and Parry Anastakis on row 12. Joshua Cavallaro, Michael McCoy, 25th and 26th. Stephen Grimmer and Hamish Cleland. On row 14, Sebastian Murray Westberg and Ira Felberg rounding out your 30. And from 31st place will be Grant Matterford. And dead last is Jake Sperry. 4.1 seconds off the pace. He's getting closer. Slowly but surely, he's getting there. As you did see on the webcam, he is on a controller, so, you got to give him some leniency. Track temp out there, 26 degrees. Track temperature, so nice and cool for these drivers. Estimated race distance of just 7 laps. You mentioned earlier, it's a hard track to pass on, so drivers might struggle to come through the field if you messed up your qualifying, which is why race 2 is so good, because you get a whole nother qualifying session to try and right those wrongs. Full points payout for both races, 50 points to the winner of each race. So you've got to fight for each and every spot out there. Tight run down into turn 1 and then into turn 2. Track twisting back on itself. So plenty opportunity and danger of mishap or side-by-side action for the first sector of the track. We look to the starting gantry. The red lights will come on here in the Barber Motorsports Park. Season 3 of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing Series goes green. And a pretty even start from your front 4. Harley will lead them down through turn number 1 and he will cover off Ryan Jarek on the run into 2. 3 wide further back in the pack. That doesn't work out. That looked like one of the chicken up racing cars that got turned around on the outside of the corner. Rest of the field to make it through relatively cleanly then, as Harlow already having to think about defending as Jarek throws it to the outside.
Yeah, it looked like it was Ashley Norman that ended up getting it caught up in the incident, but everybody reasonably through this lap one quite cleanly, but Harlow's really managed to check out quite well, but Jarek really coming under pressure from Preston here. He's going to look up the inside and force the issue, but slots in just behind, but everybody else really duking it out back there.
That was a big lunge from Preston, very fortunate not to make contact there. Everyone else all sorts of checked up through that same sequence of corners as they all snake their way around to the back of the track. See a few cars stepping out, someone out into the grass in the background. Look at the battle for 11th place. Reese Gardner and Dylan Burse with Nick Cummings there. Almost caught 3 wide, just a little bit behind the camera shot. Now they sort themselves out. And a lot of action on this opening lap. Everyone knows it's hard to pass. You've got to get it done. They're all checked up right they are right now.
They certainly are. Just in the background as well, Simon Mazzomo not quite getting the move done on John D. Miller, unfortunately, so not going to be a place gained for Mazzomo, but right at the front really sort of into their own little battles now. It looks like Dean Ross really trying to put a bit of pressure on Riley Preston, and just behind Jordan Caruso has really dropped off the back of the train of Ross in that, so see what happens with Caruso, but nonetheless that battle up front really is quite even.
It is, and you can see there is Dean Ross all over the back of Preston. Just behind there's Dylan Burse up the inside of Reese Gardner at turn 5, I'm going to say. Well, we talked about how it's an underutilized track. The downside to that is we're not that familiar with the corner names or numbers, to be quite honest with you. Gardner, wow, he was fully committed down the hill there. Just about pulled it up before he careered into the back bumper of Nick Cummings' car.
Yeah, he did very, very well to actually pull it up there. I did wonder if he was actually going to end up getting a slowdown with how much curb he used, but nevertheless did manage to get away with it without any penalty or anything. So very lucky for Reese there, but he's putting a lot of pressure on Nick here. He's got some very good pace, and he's shown a lot of good pace in the previous season as well in the back half, but Cummings is going to have to defend through the second to last corners, and he's really going to have Reese all over the back end of him now. He's trying to set this exit up as best as he possibly can. Doesn't quite have the run, but he's going to be close enough to possibly have a think about a move.
Oh,
he's not going to look to the inside though.
That worked out somehow. But now let's look back to Gardner, going to go the long way around, and Cummings, can he keep momentum up around the outside, wheel to wheel, almost straight in paint, but none exchanged just quite yet. Fantastic racing room given as Gardner completes the move. Now look for Dylan Burst to lunge up the inside as well. Cummings under a lot of threat. All right, now a bit of a mistake. He bowls a wide, and Burst gets to the outside of Reese Gardner, but he's on the wrong side of the track for the next corner. And he'll tuck back in, shows a nose, thinks better of it.
Yeah, not going to be able to get a move done at the S's by Burst. He's going to look up the inside and takes Reese Gardner, but straightens himself back up, and now that whole train is checked up, and now Hinsley's going to get turned by Rick Gardner.
Everyone trying to squeeze over the same piece of real estate on the track. Thomas Hind, fortunate fix him there, as he just came across the front bumper of Reese Gardner. A big check up and shoot from the contact with Cummings. That corner seems to be providing a lot of trouble as drivers concentrate up to them massively each and every lap. There is Thomas Hinds. That is either one determined face or one angry face. Reese Gardner's ended up well off the racetrack.
He's actually ended up in the worst possible position. He's gone all the way to the pit entry as well, so he's going to have to stop, reverse, and get that thing back around the pit entry gate. Speary nearly ends up running into the side of Reese, so Reese not going to be too particularly happy with the fact that he's made that error there and ended up way down the field, but nevertheless that's allowed a lot of people to gain some positions and really has released the car of Nick Cummings and also Kobe Williams as well to start chasing down the likes of Turner, Caruso and Towell.
See who's capitalised on all this. Mia Ott now going to go by Dylan Burst just behind these guys into the corner that started it all last time around. Ott can't quite complete the move, and they might run side by side into Chaos Corner is what I'm going to be calling it from now on. Can they go two abreast through here? They make contact. They're still side by side, and they make it through relatively unscathed, but Ott can't complete the manoeuvre. And look out now for John Miller trying to capitalise on this. Ott just covers him off as they run up the hill now.
Yeah, Ott doing a fantastic job to hold off John Miller at the moment. He's putting on a lot of pressure. Looks to the inside of Burst, does Ott, but thinks better of it and can't quite get the move done. Right behind the car of Burst now is Ott, who's really putting a lot of pressure on to try and get this move done and hold off John Miller in the process. Looks up the inside and big lunge from Ott and a bit of contact as well to the front right of Dylan Burst, and Dylan Burst is going to give that position back, and Miller's now getting involved in this.
A lot of hip checks going on here on the outside of the top 10, a little bit further up. Still single file, but very close indeed between Jordan Caruso, Martin Turner, and Daniel Tao. Turner slightly wide through turn number 2. Just about fended off Caruso that advances in the process. 3.5 minutes remains, just under that now left in this race. Only a couple laps. It's 8/10 of a second margin for the Ultra T Sports band of Jackson, Susan Harlow out front. There we are on board with Turner looking at him. He's running in VR. You better look around and see that Caruso is looking now to his inside. And he's sideways, and he's in the grass, and he's bouncing over the curbs. And somehow he keeps it on the racetrack. Turner has a look to see where he is, and he clears him.
Yeah, a little bit ambitious there from Caruso to try and get the move done, and that's allowed Turner to keep the position for the time being, but Caruso's all over the back end here, and he's going to look up the inside in the final section here. It's going to be risky, but doesn't quite get it done in the end. So Turner's just going to hold on, but coming back at him with the undercut though, and looking up the inside is Caruso for the move at the second and last corner, and going to get the move done.
Great move in the end from Jordan Caruso. Pace prevails for him. Modem simulation replay. This is Sperry getting escorted off the track, and that was revenge. What happened between those two there? Sperry and Gardner coming to blows. They're co-commentators on V8 Scops, but maybe there's some animosity between them.
That's not gonna go particularly
Wait a minute.
well.
What did I? It's animosity, isn't it? It's not Anna. I can't do English apparently, Cam.
Wednesday night English with Simspeed, part 1.
Word of the day: animosity. That's it, right? There you go. Oh, that's not going to end well. Anastakis and Ross, both out in the weeds. Similar contact between Gardner and Sperry. Westberg's out in the fence as well, almost.
Yeah, not quite sure what's happened with Westberg there, where he's been involved or he's done that on his own. He's actually done that on his own just behind as well. He's got on the curb and actually lost it, and then the car behind him, Scott Fountain's actually done pretty much the same thing except in the other direction. So synchronized spinning between Fountain and Westberg, unfortunately, but Fountain managing to somehow hold it and carry on for the time being. Fonte all the way down in outside the top 20 now, but nevertheless still giving it red hot crack is Fonte. But battle further up between Ashley Norman and Thomas Hinds as well, going on for that final top 20 spot, and Hinds is going to have to try and hold it around the outside here, but not quite going to be able to have the grip and the traction, so we'll have to slot in behind Ashley Norman for the time being, but is going to look to the outside at the next corner if he can try and get it around the outside here. Again, very difficult track to pass it, so it's going to have a lot of work here to try and get around the outside, but Norman early on the brakes and is going to allow Hinds to not quite be able to get on it by thanks to holding the inside.
It is the final lap of the race, and out front, just shy of 0.8 of a second. Still the margin for Jackson, Susan Harlow as Hinds rages up onto the back of the chicken up man, trying to find a way through, but he's going to struggle to find a way through with just half a lap remaining. As out front, Jackson Susan Harlow is going to come around to the final corner, and he will claim the first victory of Season 3. He gets race 1 done here at Barber Motorsports Park, and chasing him across the line, 2 Eclipse cars of Jarek and Kananzi.
Yeah, fantastic race by Harlow to end up getting that win, but Burson, yep, they're going to go at it, and Burse is just going to hold on to the position thanks to going around the outside at the finals corners as well. So great move there by the car of Dylan Burse to get the position, but nevertheless, really been an exciting race all the way through the field.
The checkered flag flies on race 1, but we can already look forward to the green flag for race 2, which will come up in about 15 minutes time. Let's have a look at the results from race 1. Final margin was 0.83 between Harlow and Jarek. Kananzi just behind. Preston and Ross running out the top 5. We saw that great battle between Martin Turner and co. Top 10 got shaken up a bit with that big contact and check-up with Gardner, Hinds, and a bunch of the others involved, but in the end it was Tao, Caruso, Turner, Williams, and Cummings that made up the top 10.
And just outside the top 10, Mia Ott and John Miller, 11th and 13th and 14th to Benjamin Dahlia and Simon Zomo. 15th will go to Dylan Burse after a fantastic move on his teammate Michael Yep, who will come home in at 16th. 17th to Matthew Spencer. 18th to Reese Howell. 19th, Ashley Norman, and round out top 20, Thomas Hinds.
Joshua Cavallaro, Stephen Grimer, Hamish Cleland, Perry Anastakis. We saw how that incident with a couple laps to go. Scott Fontaine coming across in 25th ahead of Sam Ross, Ira Felberg, Grant Matterford, Michael McCoy, Sebastian Murray-Westberg, and the field rounded out by Reese Gardner and Jake Sperry. Great day for the Simspeed commentators. Really repping us there, guys, on the racetrack. Last and second last. Then we'll go to a quick break here on Simspeed TV when we come back. Qualifying and race 2.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're gonna lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane. Press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got really outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Secondary close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back to the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series. I apologise. Our director has decided now is a good time to play a game of you're on, no you're not live, no you're not live. But turns out we are live. So welcome back to Simspeed TV. Getting ready for qualifying and race 2 here at Barber Motorsports Park. The series brought to you by Simfinity, RMS Race Management Service, RSW Graphics, and Apex Imagery, who have jumped on board for the first time this season. And Cameron Dance is alongside me, as always, here for this series. Well, at least there are a fair bit of bumper to barge in there in race 1. Should probably expect more of the same in race 2. A few drivers have shown their displeasure already.
Yeah, they certainly have. We've seen quite a few interesting moments over the course of race 1 with various different battles and various different incidents, but race 2's up, and I suspect there'll be no love lost between some of these drivers, and we'll see what happens nevertheless.
Before we get to that, we've got to have another qualifying session first. 10 minutes, same as we had in a start of the broadcast. 3 laps again, and it might shake up the order a little bit if someone gets it a little bit wrong. Harlow ran away with it after starting on pole, so if he gets on a pole again, you're going to be worried if you're another driver, and you've got to hope that someone can try and sneak their way in between him and that number 1 position here in qualifying. So, 10 minutes ahead of us for qualifying number 2. Let's check in with some of our webcam drivers out there in and around Australia and indeed the world today. We've got John Miller, of course, from Texas. That was a lot of smoke coming from Fonzie's webcam. What was that? I don't know if also Fonzie's a vapor. Okay. Martin Turner's a hippie by the looks of it. With the, I love those pants. I'm not having a go. I love those pants. And Simon Mazzomo repping his team of choice. And half of Sperry's head. Look out for Thomas Hinds, because that is an angry face. He is angry. We can confirm that much. The issue with VR, Cameron, is you can't actually see whether they're angry or not.
Well, you can, but you can't. But if their mouth is moving a lot, then
yeah,
it probably are. But nevertheless, it's quite a little bit different to see someone in VR. But that said, it's just one of those things in sim racing today.
Watching Grant Matterford again. He had a relatively quiet race 1 compared to some of the other drivers out there. He came across somewhere inside the top 20 in the end, so even looking for a slight improvement here for race 2. Stephen Grimer. Let's go on board with a lap with Stephen Grimer here to have a look at this Barber Motorsports track as we dive down the hill to turn 1 and immediately back upwards for turn 2.
Yeah, turn 2, very, very difficult to get right in these cold tyre conditions. We've got to be patient on the throttle and really can't afford to get on it too early. Same with pretty much majority of the uphill and downhill corners, which is nearly the whole track, but majority of those corners, such as turn 2, really difficult where it's long and you've got to be patient and just can't get on the throttle too early, but he's clearly done a good job has the car of Stephen Grimer, who's coming down towards the S's now. And a little bit of looseness there, but over the curb, not too much. Getting it down on the power very nicely, using all the track as well to head it down the back end of the circuit through the fast to left and right. Over the curb on the left, not too much of the right and not too much steering. Understeered a little bit wide there, but got the car to the left-hand side of the circuit through the second S now, using all the curb on the left and right to come over the rise before the long sweeping right-hander, which just feels like it takes forever to get through, and you have to be so patient and can't let the car get unbalanced, as well as it is a tricky corner with downshifting and braking as well. Coming through the final corner now, a little bit of curb on the left and all the curb on the right to come across the line, and it is going to be a 1 minute 32.
0.843 puts him 7th for now, just ahead of Jake Sperry. Cananzi currently fastest. Nick Cummings comes across with a 31.1. That puts him 4th fastest. And indeed it does. John Miller just inside the top 5 at the moment. Kobe Williams up there in 2nd place. Good first lap from him.
Yeah, it certainly is a very, very good run from Kobe in this first lap. Currently on his second one now. New signing for Eclipse as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So really good addition by the looks of it for that team as they try to take on the heavyweight from last season Evolution Racing team. Currently does have the likes of Caruso and that in here tonight, but nevertheless we'll see what Williams can do as he comes through the final sector now, through the final S. Is looking pretty tidy and nice for coming through the second to last corner now, hugging right up on the right hand side compared to middle of the road, which we've seen a lot of drivers do, using that curb on the inside as well before coming through the final corner, not using too much of that left hand curb to come down to the front straight and come across the line. It is going to be a 1 minute 30.478, so straight to the top. But pit by tins, by absolutely nothing.
And then Harlow pips them both. So 66 thousandths cover the top 4. Not anymore, because Riley Preston just went quicker still. Now 0.12 separating the top 4 drivers. 0.15, Cananzi goes fastest. Incredibly tight at the top at the moment. He's right on board with Fonte, and he goes to 20th.
Yeah, Fonte struggling a little bit in these cars, not used to the front wheel drives compared to the rear wheel drive that he's normally used to, but you can see the amount of concentration on his face there, really trying to put in a good lap here as he comes down towards the end of the first sector, but he's going to try his best to see if he can get another top 20 in qualifying here. Didn't have the best race one, but he'll definitely be trying his hardest in race 2 to try and recover some form of a result.
He probably could have left it at Fonte is struggling, because that just sums up his racing, doesn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Sebastian Murray Wesberg makes his way around to the back portion of the track now, which is very much one big straight punctuated by 2 corners, which are those 2, and then another big straight, and then you're into the final couple corners of the racetrack. So the middle section of the track is actually relatively easy, but when you are trying to race someone through here, it's quite frustrating because you can't really overtake up here. Jackson Harlow does 1 minute 30 flat to put himself 3/10 clear of the chasing pack. What can the others do in response? Preston goes faster with a 9.92. Brett Cananzi comes across the line with a 30.076. He goes to 2nd. Where does Thomas Hinds go? He's done. Dylan Burst props up into 4th. Kobe Williams will stay in 6th, and Wesberg comes across in 20th. So the top 4 are separated by 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, it's very, very close at the top at the moment. Jarrett goes to P2 as well. Caruso P7 at the moment. Doesn't look like there's anyone else left on the lap. Actually, Harlow is the last person on a flying lap, I believe, as well. So we'll see what the Ultra C Sports driver can do here as he comes down at the back straight before the final sector. Points it in very, very nicely. Nice amount of curb. Not too much unsettled. The car comes through turn number 14 and 15 now. Try and see where he can end up. Sitting P4 at the moment on a 30.091, so be trying everything he possibly can to improve on this lap through the final corner, using a lot of curb as well compared to everyone else, but we'll see what the time is when he comes across the line. It's going to be 1 minute 30.006, so P2 for the moment, and not going to top Preston.
Wow, good lap from Preston then. 0.08 of a second, covering your top 4 drivers out there from the start of this race, unless anyone else squeaks their way inside the top 4 or 5. Simon Mizomo probably won't be one of those drivers to do that. He's currently 18th fastest. The sector times don't look great for him. They actually look really horrible. He's already done a 1 minute 28, and he's still coming around the back of the track. It's not a good lap for him, is it?
Yeah, it certainly is, and you can see he's a little bit frustrated there with himself trying to get this lap done, and I think he's actually not going to have this time count either, as I'm
it's 15 seconds off the pace.
Well, it's 15 seconds off the pace, but I'm pretty sure, it didn't count anyway because he ended up exiting pit lane after making a mistake, and then he's gone off track there anyway, so if he had been on his 2 flying laps, he probably would have invalidated them anyway, so not the best result for Mez, but he's inside that top 20 nevertheless.
Angry looking Italian is Mizomo when he gets frustrated, isn't he? So we've still got a minute left of qualifying. When everyone's finished, our lap time is pretty much all 32 drivers for race 2. Believe it or not, Jake Sperry is not dead last on the grid. So miracles do happen. He will line up 28th. So the top 4 or so battle here going to be very interesting because, as I said, if someone could get between Harlow and a pole, it would make race very interesting indeed. Preston's done so. Preston didn't have much pace in race 1. It was Jarek and Canesi chasing Harlow down towards the end, and they start 3rd and 4th. So this is going to be very good here. And we're going to talk about the strategy as well, don't we, Cam? Because they need to make a pit stop at some point in the race. It can happen any tyre from the end of lap 1 to before the white flag comes out. And you have to take 2 tyres. That's the only requirement.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the strategy is going to be here because it's a track that does use its front tyres, but is also one of those tracks where newer tyres probably aren't going to be a significant advantage either with all these undulating corners, especially when they're cold as well. So really going to be quite fascinating to see what the strategy is. If you are quicker and you're stuck behind some, it's probably going to pay to pit early, which you might find a lot of drivers are going to do to try and get some nice, fresh, clean air. But regardless, we'll see what happens, and you might just find that the guys at the front might just run this a little bit longer than they normally would.
That's your starting grid up on the screen. The top 4 we've talked about. Daniel Towell and Dylan Burst just behind them. Jordan Crusoe. Thomas Hins from 8th. Better starting slot for him. Kobe Williams, Reece Gardner up inside of the top 10 as well.
And we go back to row 6 with Martin Turner and Dean Ross. Nick Cummings and Mir on row 7, row 8. Ashley Norman and Michael Yip. John Miller and Simon Mizomo on row 9. And rounding out the top 20, Matthew Spencer and Reece Howell.
Sam Ross, Sebastian Murray Wesberg off the 11th row ahead of Parry Anastakis, Benjamin Dahlia, Joshua Cavallaro, Scott Fontaine, and Hamish Cleland and Jake Sperry on row 14, Grant Matterford, Stephen Grimer, and the field rounded out by Michael McCoy and Ira Fellberg. Ira, of course, the man responsible for this entire series. Track temp is basically the same, a degree hotter for them, so they won't even notice a change. Green flag, 7:30 in the morning in sim time. Estimated race distance of 14 laps. Pit entry is going to be a talking point too, because there are concrete barriers, or metal barriers I should say, lining the track when you come into pits. It might unglue someone's race if they get it wrong. So the battle at the front, Evolution Racing Team, Alta Sea Sports, and Eclipse. Cananzi, Jarek, Harlow, and Preston from 4th to 1st. 4 very quick drivers. But who gets it done for race 2? Can someone stop Harlow? Or will he clean sweep round 1? As the red lights come on at Barber Motorsports Park, we're underway once more. Great start from the 3rd place man of Ryan Jarek. They'll go 3 wide down into turn 1, but Jarek backs over and Harlow sweeps around the outside and takes the lead straight away from Riley Preston. Kananzi will slot into third. Jarek loses a spot after his great start, side by side and 2 by 2 behind them as they all start to sort themselves out. A spinner in the back, that looked like Sperry, and they're still 3 wide back there. Fonte's off the track as well.
Yeah, a lot of drivers having a bit of trouble with this first lap. Obviously, Scott Fountain being one, and then Anatascus being another. So pretty much everybody else making it through relatively cleanly. But Jarek losing a lot of momentum off that start. Could have easily looked up the inside of the car of Preston, who's all over the back end of Harlow here, nearly making contact and pushing Harlow down the road, but nevertheless not going to be in a bad position is the car of Ryan Jarek. Probably going to find he's going to try and keep up with these guys and possibly pit early if he can, but nevertheless we'll see what happens. But Harlow's now got a nice gap back to Preston at the moment.
Probably too disappointed, Ben, after that first corner. Preston for losing the lead on the inside line, and Jarek for not capitalising on that start. Should have been 3 wide, should have been in the lead, but he backs out of it, took the cautious approach. Now he sits in 4th for his trouble. Side by side for 5th, Dylan Burst sweeps around to the outside of Reese Gardner. The inside around the final corner gives him the spot. Look out for Jordan Caruso now with a run. He pulls to the inside, and Gardner might lose a couple for his efforts here, as on the inside contact, and Gardner ends up off the track. Hinds trying to capitalise on this. He takes a very wide line, trying to avoid some contact. These are the 2 guys that made contact in race number 1. It looks like this time Hinds is going to get by cleanly.
Yeah, Hinsey gaining position out of that, and Reese unfortunately gonna lose 2, so really unfortunate for Reese there, but nevertheless he's gonna still give it a red hot go. He's doing better than he was in race 1, so if he can sit where he is, he's gonna be a happy man. But nevertheless, at the front, Jarek looking to try and make him, trying to make a move on Preston, who's really not letting this one go easily, is he?
No, he's not. Harlow's just edged the gap out though over the last half a lap or so, out to half a second, and it does look like potentially Brett Cananzi may be starting to be held up by Riley Preston. He was showing the nose on the run down into turn 4 this time by, so let's see if anyone decides to go for the early pit stop here and try to put themselves into some clean air and out of the traffic up front as they all come through the final corner. Ryan Jarek brings it down into pit lane. So he pulls the trigger. He's going to try to find some clean air and find some extra pace as he comes through the Metal Canyon down on pit road, and he'll hope to bring it to a stop. And he's joined by an array of others as well.
Yeah, Burst, Gardner, and also Williams all coming into the lane as well to join their teammate and fellow rival on track. So we'll see where they all pop out in the end come the rest of the pit stops. But nevertheless, Preston now really under pressure for Cananzi, who's trying to find a way by. He's looking up the inside, but I've got a replay on the screen of what appears to be an incident with Simon Mazzomo and Sperry. And Fonte as well, to add into the 3 commentators in one room.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that.
In fact, they all are in the same channel as well, so that's probably not going to have gone down too well.
And the rear wing fallen down on the back of Mazzomo's car, and that too looks like Sperry overcooked it on the inside, turned Mazzomo around, and Sperry got cleaned up as he spun it back across the track. Fonte had nowhere to go in that one. Harlow's really starting to stretch his legs now out front. Gap out to a second, back to Preston.
Yeah, Harlow's really starting to pull that gap out, try and get himself a nice gap for the pit stop where he may possibly have to stay stationary a little bit longer than he may possibly like, but nevertheless he's going to push on as best as he can to build a gap and pull away. But at the moment, Thomason's starting to put a bit of pressure on Jordan Caruso as well, not too far behind, but Cananzi really putting a lot of pressure in the foreground as well, as you can see on the car of Preston.
Having a look at Miller as he starts to pressure for a spot further inside the top 10. Mirot just in front of him there, occupying the 8th spot that he wants to take away. Might have to do it down pit lane though. Was Cananzi still trying to find a way by The Panther Race Fuels Evolution Racing Team car. The pit box IO, man. Can't make it work just yet. And Harlow continues to run.
Yeah, you just can't seem to get the over speed on the car of Riley Preston Cananzi, so can have to sit on by. But now Ott's going to look to try and make a move on Nick Cummings here, who's gone a little bit wide and all over the back. A bit of a tap as well from Mia Ott to the rear end of Nick Cummings, who's really trying everything he possibly can to hold off Ott at the moment. But Ott's got some really good pace at the moment to try and find a way past, but she can't quite do it.
Through into turn 13 then. Still, the gap doesn't present itself, and I wonder if we'll see Ott dive it into the lane this time.
No, but Cummings did. Hins as well has dived into the lane by the looks of it as well. So another 2 cars onto the lane, and Medford's just coming out of the pits as well to have finished his stop. So starting to see everybody sort of get their pit stops out of the way and try and find some clean air as well from how hard this place is to pass.
Ryan Jarek, of course, the leading car to have made a stop. Keep a keen eye on what lap times he's doing, see if he might have a chance of closing down Harlow once the pit stop cycle shakes out. Martin Turner back there in 23rd as well has been one of the cars to come into the pits.
Yeah, so currently Martin Turner trying everything he possibly can to make his way on up the field. Currently one of the drivers to have made a stop at the stage, sitting in what is the 6th car in the order of cars who have stopped. So a little bit down the order, and he's got the car of Dean Ross, or Sam Ross, not too far behind him as well. Dean Ross, sorry.
One of the Rosses. And Ott looks like she's going to respond. No, she's not. She's bolted wide. And Miller might have an opportunity now to do the switchback. Gets into the pack of Mia Ott. But, as a result, loses the momentum.
Yeah, can't quite get the move done. Can John Miller on Mia Ott. Showing you how difficult it is to pass around this track is John Miller, and Ott doing a fantastic job at just doing enough to hold off the car of Miller, who seems to have a bit of a run here, and Ott's going to have to go defensive, but is going to let Miller on by, who's clearly got slightly more pace, but Ott's going to try and hold it around the outside for this corner, but not quite going to be able to get on the power early enough, so Miller getting the job done finally.
Not quite. Mia's... Oh my god, Mia's still there, and she's got the inside, but Miller... Luckily, will not have to fend her off. She backs out and allows him to take that spot away.
Yeah, so very, very good defensive driving by, well, and defensive driving as well by the 2 drivers here, just inside the top 10, currently just outside the top 5 as well. And Ott's got another run on Miller, but not going to be able to take advantage of the run either due to the difficulty of these next few corners. Got a very good run all over the back end of Miller is Ott. As they come through the final few corners, Ott looks to the outside, runs a bit deep, but actually goes into the pit lane as well. So Ott deciding to get out of traffic and get a bit of clean air to try and get it undercut here on John Miller. So we'll see what happens and whether this ends up working out. But currently, a number of drivers starting to blink as well and coming to the pit lane. Matthew Spencer also joining Ott and coming in as well.
This looks like a pretty lively battle that could unfold soon between Turner, that's not Turner, that's Hins, Burse, Gardner, and Turner is back there. And also Dean Ross. These guys currently battling for 19th, which will become somewhere just inside the top 10 once everyone else makes their stop. Harlow, Preston, Cananzi all haven't pitted yet. In fact, the top 9 haven't pitted. Top 10, 11, 12, 14. The top 14 drivers haven't pitted.
It's a number of drivers who haven't pitted, and we eventually got there in the end. So top 14 have not pitted at the moment. Sperry is in 14th at the moment, so probably will be the last driver to pit, as we've seen in the previous season. But currently on the screen, Rescan trying to get a move done here on the car of, I believe that is Dylan Burst, but Harlow has come into the pit lane to make his stop. So the first of the top 10 to come into the lane to get their stop out of the way is Harlow.
We know that a lot of drivers across the seasons have had issues down on pit lane. For one reason or another. Harlow will be hoping that his is just perfect. Because Jarek has been putting in some pretty decent lap times. And he'll be right there if Harlow does make a slight mistake down here in the pits. He got it pulled up nicely as we continue to watch this battle. Gardner trying to find a way by, can't do it. So Harlow gets released now. Good grief. And there is the Eclipse car behind of Ryan Jarek.
Yeah, there is Jarek just coming through now, who's not quite going to jump Harlow, but is going to be reasonably close. So Jarek coming out around about where he would have been had he pitted around the same time. So no loss there for Jackson Seasonal Harlow with the gap that he had, but this is going to mean that the likes of Preston and Cananti and that are going to have to respond soon, as just as I say that, they both do in fact respond. So clearly listening in on the broadcast, and John Caruso comes in as well. So start to see everybody else follow what Jackson Seasonal Harlow did.
Cold tyres, or 2 cold tyres, and 2 colder tyres after being sat in the lane are a bit of a hindrance of Harlow at the moment. As Jarek is starting to close in on him on this lap. His first lap or 2 after pitting wasn't that great. Harlow probably going to be in the same boat. Look at Jarek, he's there, he's to the inside, he's got a slight overlap, but Harlow shuts the door firmly in his face. Jarek trying to lunge back up the inside, again the door shut. And Harlow making sure there is no way through for Jarek. Great run out of the final corner though. Can he make a move down into turn 1 of the slipstream? Harlow moves the car over to defend. As out as well, because out of pit lane comes the Evolution Racing Team car of Riley Preston into the lead of the race. Preston jumps them all.
Yeah, great job by Preston, but he's got cold tyres, so he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck here for a lap at least, if not 2. So Harlow and Jarek here are going to really need to work together, but Jarek's looking to the inside. Harlow goes defensive to hold off Jarek, who's going to have to sit station for the time being, but this is going to allow Preston to get some temp into the tyres and then start to run away from these two. But Harlow's going to press on, try everything he possibly can. John Caruso has also jumped the car, well, stayed ahead of the car of Brett Cananzi as well. So the current top 4, pretty much the same, apart from that Riley Preston moved in the pit lane.
And now Harlow starts to close up to him. Cananzi was 2 seconds slower actually than the others on his in-lap. So he actually was quite slow during the pit stop days. He should probably be up there around where Jarek is, as that's a mistake from Preston. And here comes Harlow for the lead of the race. He's going to take it back away. Michael McCoy in the distance is in the fence as well. And Preston might lose 2 spots as he tries to lunge it back around the outside of both of them. As Jarek on the outside almost contacts, gets a good run somehow despite that. And Harlow again having to go defensive into turn number 1. This time it is for the lead of the race. Jarek propped up high, couldn't get it done around there, and Harlow back out front.
Yeah, great move by Harlow to get the move done, and also great move by Jarek to do what he did and get by the car of Preston. So Jarek up into P2 now, having started in P3. So that is a game, but now he's all over the back end of Jackson Susan Harlow, and now Preston is going to be involved in this little battle. So it's a 3-way battle for the lead of this race, and there's absolutely nothing in it between 3 of them.
Jarek sees punch out the rest of the lap perfectly and stay firmly in behind him, so that next time blind turns 1, 2, 4 or 5 he can make that move. But this looks to be where Harlow is strong. It's around this back part of the circuit where the high speed is what matters. That car's geared well towards that spectrum. Everyone's actually quite tightly bunched towards the front, aren't they? You can see them all down the back straightaway there as Harlow throws it over the curbs, trying to make as much time as he can. Preston's starting to fall away. Kananzi and Caruso have both fallen away from these top 3 by quite a bit since they made their stops. Jarrett, he's dropped a bit of time on this lap, hasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly has. He's dropped a little bit of time, which is very, very odd, but he's pressing on regardless. And even Preston's dropped quite a bit ways back from the car of Ryan Jarrett. And then also the car of Brett Kananzi's still struggling to catch up to Preston. So Preston in a little bit of no man's land here, but Jarrett's really putting a lot of pressure on here to try and find a way past Jackson, Susan, Harlow. But Harlow's tyres are nice and warm now, so he's going to really struggle to get a move done here.
Can't just go for the big Hail Mary, because if he doesn't pull it up, and he hits Harlow and spins him around, he'll get a cop a penalty, and he won't win the race anyway. So he needs to make sure it's clean, or relatively clean. A little bit of bumping's okay. It is TCR after all, but you can't take someone out of the way. You can't make them move out of the way. And so he may be invitingly close to have that lunge, but just not quite there to make it work.
Just needs to be a little bit more patient. Try and use the tyres that he possibly can or has underneath him. There's not going to be long left in this race. Pretty sure we're going to be white flag next time by across the line. So he hasn't got too much longer. Actually, 3 minutes left, sorry. So not going to be too much longer left in this race regardless. But he's going to be under pressure here.
Hinzi's putting the pressure on the back of the Eclipse car of Kobe Williams for 7th place out there on the track. Out on to the main straight, 2 laps to go for these drivers. He shows a nose down into turn number 1. He's not close enough. He's trying to put him off. Dives right up to his back bumper on the entry to the corner there. And he shows a nose. He just compromises his own line a little bit. It may cost himself just a little teeny bit of time.
Yeah, it certainly will, but he's going to have him here is Thomas Hins as he looks up the inside of Kobe Williams into turn number 4. A little bit of contact as well, a little bit of hip and shoulder, but Thomas Hins gets the move done. Kobe Williams going to possibly look to come back at him at the Easter section. He looks up the inside, but not going to be able to make a move and will sit station for the time being. Reese Garner right in behind this little group now as well. So Reese Garner's going to look to try and make a move on Kobe Williams, who seems to be struggling a little bit here, who possibly has worn tyres, but nevertheless, Reese is really going to push on here and try everything he possibly can.
Martin Turner back there as well, occupying 10th spot, just off the back of these guys as they slightly spread out up and around turns 12 and 13. 1 lap to go here in the Barber for round 1, the Australian Servo Touring Car Series. And the lead for Jackson Susan Harlow is just a tick over half a second out front. Despite not starting on the pole, he was leading them through turn 1. He's just done the fastest lap of the race as Brett Kananzi, in fact, just back there in 4th. But Harlow, once he gets out in front, he just seems to fight an extra level where he's able to drive away from people. The pressure seems to be what drives him, because he was quite slow. He dropped from the lead of the race when he had no one behind him. But as soon as he got back there with Jarek, he was back through and he's got pace once more.
Yeah, he certainly does Harlow, and he's done a fantastic job to end up doing what he's done to get on by the car of Preston and then managed to pull away consistently. He seems to have a knack for these front wheel drive TCR cars, does Harlow, and seems to do very, very well every time he drives them. So will not be surprised if he does very, very well in the international scene. And Jarek running a little bit wide there in the background as well. But nevertheless, Preston's not going to be able to get a move done here, unfortunately.
Battle will come down to the wire, but it won't be close enough. Jackson Susan Harlow is going to go back to back and get his account off to a strong start. He takes out round 1 with 2 race wins here at Barber Motorsports Park. Great drive from the Logitech G Altus Esports man. He'll be very pleased with that after missing the majority of Season 2. Back with a vengeance.
Yeah, he certainly will be very, very happy with that result, Will Harlow, after missing majority of Season 2, so he'll be very happy to end up coming away with a double victory in Season 3 at round 1.
Last, the drivers come across the line, and no battles coming across the line. Everyone's resolved their little quarrels. I almost said squirrels. No, not quite. Almost. I've remembered how to use English language properly now, Cameron. As that is your top 10. Jackson Harlow, Ryan Jarrett, Riley Preston, Brett Cananzi, and Jordan Caruso. Daniel Tao, Thomas Hins, Kobe Williams, another top 10. Peter Reese Gardner and Martin Turner.
And then go back to Dean Ross and Dylan Burst just outside the top 10, 11th and 12th, 13th and 14th, John Miller and Mia Ott rounding at the top 15, Michael Yip followed by Benjamin Dahlia in 16th from 24th on the grid. So very good run for Dahlia at the end of the day. 17th for Matthew Spencer, 18th for Sebastian Murray Westberg. Good recovery after having that off earlier on in the race, followed by Joshua Cavallaro in 19th, and Stephen Grimer from 30th on the grid up into a top 20 finish.
Coming across in 21st, Scott Fontaine, Hamish Cleland, Nick Cummings, Sam Ross, and Simon Mizomo, your top 25, top 30. Rounded out by Ira Felberg, Parry Anastakis, Ashley Norman, Jake Sperry, Grant Matterford. And the last 2 drivers across the line were Michael McCoy and Reese Howe, who both were a few laps down come the end of the race. Let's talk to our race winner, Jackson Susan Harlow. Jackson, 2 race wins today here for round 1. Got your cut off to a great start. Must be happy with that.
Yeah, it was a good race. Can't complain. 2 wins out of 2 races. So, yeah, pretty good night of racing.
Certainly was. Race 1 was relatively straightforward. For you, race 2, a little bit less so. You didn't quite get the pole, but good launch off the line. It all looked smooth sailing. And suddenly in the pit stop phase, you came out almost 3rd, but you just were 2nd. And then you managed to take the lead away. What happened in that pit stop window?
I don't know. I just think that Ryan pitted really early. So when our tyres wore and when we were on the cold tyres, obviously his tyres were already up to temp and that. And then I was trying to block him to keep him behind so that, yeah, Riley stayed out that extra lap and he got the jump on both of us, which was probably the smartest thing to do. But he made a little mistake and, yeah, I could get up the inside.
Good drive from you. We didn't see too much of you last season, Jackson. Very disappointed in you for that. This season,
I'll try and do all of them this season.
well, you're leading the championship now, so you have no excuse. You've got to go and get a win for Altus Esports in the championship.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. It's a perfect way to start. So if my racing doesn't start back up in the next 6 weeks, which is highly unlikely,
Yeah.
I'll be able to make the season.
Yeah, I don't like your chances of that, unfortunately. So good luck then as we visit some very cool racetracks over the next 5 weeks in the US. And before we let you go, who are the people that get it done for you?
Just Logitech G, the Chiefs, Astro Gaming, Modem Simulation, Cube Controls, and just all the guys at Altus. And of course, my good mate Mario Vartanian for being in Discord with me and doing some good banter through the whole race and nearly making me drive off every corner. So yeah, thanks to him.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we get to have a little chat to you next time as well. Good luck.
Cheers.
I dragged myself out of the booth by accident then. Let's have a little chat to Ryan Sherrick, standing by with Cameron Dan.
Well, P2 in the end had to work for it a little bit, but you can't be too disappointed.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was a fun race. I don't think we maximised today, but still happy to bring home 2 second place finishes.
Yeah, well, certainly. Obviously, this track, one of the more difficult tracks on the calendar that for passing. Did you find it was actually as difficult as we thought it might have been, or was it actually not too bad to try and pass people on?
It was pretty difficult. I had a few chances at the lead in the first race, but just couldn't make it happen. And in the second race, I knew I had the warmer tyres, and Jackson had the colder tyres, so I gave it absolutely everything, but his defence was unreal, so just couldn't get there in the end.
Yes, now we looking at the pit stop times, you've finally worked it out how to get a fast pit stop. Did you think that the undercut was going to be the stronger point, or did you possibly think that the overcut wasn't going to work as well as it possibly did?
I went with undercut because I wanted to mix our strategy up, so go the opposite of what Brett was doing, but I genuinely think that was the right strategy because it's a low tyre wear track, and I could get out there and just punch in fast laps in clean air while the other guys were battling, so I feel like it was the right strategy.
Well, certainly, clearly was the right strategy in the end. Lime Rock Park up next, the tight little right-handed track majority of the time, but you're looking forward to it at all?
Yeah, absolutely. We had shocking luck there last time, but it actually ended up being probably my favourite race on the calendar, so yeah, really looking forward to that one.
Well, before we let you go, just any thanks and any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, big thanks to pitbox.io for giving us the tools to continue improving. Also to Eclipse Sim Sports. The guys have been mega. We got a new driver, Kobe Williams. He did awesome today, so thumbs up to him. And shout out to downunderhost.com.
Well, there you have it, Ryan. Second place finisher of Ryan Jerick, and I believe you're standing by with third place finisher Riley Preston.
No, you are.
Oh, okay. Well, Riley, third place. You can't be too happy to start the season off with that.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Opposition was a bit unexpected since this is it's my first time on the track, and it's a bit of a sketchy track with all the blind corners. And lost first on the start, which is a bit disappointing. And not sure what it is about this car, but the cold tires, I just can't get a grip on it. And Jackson started pulling away, but yeah, after the pit stops, got into the lead, and again on the cold tires, just lost it. Jackson and Ryan got by, but I thought I could get him at the end of the race, but ran out of laps unfortunately. But it's not too bad.
Yeah, certainly wasn't. Now, just on that pit stop, did you possibly consider doing the undercut at all to try and maximize what everybody else was doing to try and get some clean air, or did the overcut actually did you think that the overcut was going to work as well as it possibly would have?
Well, I saw Jackson pitting in front of me because he had the back marker just coming up, and I thought on the cold tires he's going to be slow for a couple of laps, so I stayed out. Pushed as hard as I could, and sweep just in front of him on the exit, which was pretty cool. But yeah, in the end, not sure if it was the right decision. Maybe pitting a bit earlier would have been a bit more successful, but that's how it goes.
Well, indeed it does. And Lime Rock Park up next on the schedule. So before we let you go, just any thanks and your thoughts on the next round?
Yeah, Lime Rock should be interesting. I don't think I've driven that track since rookies and the Mazdas, so it should be fun. But once again, big thanks to the guys at Evolution Racing Team, especially our sponsor, Panther Fuel. They're a big name in these TCR, so it's good to get a podium here for them. And thanks to Jordan, my teammate, as well, for pushing me throughout the week.
Well, there you have it, Ryan. Third place finisher Riley Preston, and I think that's it for tonight.
Yep, that'll do us for round one of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series here on Simspeed TV. We'll be back the same time next week on Wednesday at 7:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time for round two from Lime Rock Park. Make sure you like us on social media at Simspeed TV, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page if you enjoyed the broadcast as well. Plenty more coming up for us this week, including the Oceanic Dirt Sim Racing events tomorrow night, plus on Friday the VRS GT Sprint Series and a NASCAR Trucks, and we're going to Talladega on Saturday for the NASCAR iRacing Series. That should be a titanic, massive event. Really looking forward to that. Plus the Nature Series after that as well. So stay tuned. Plenty coming up here on iRacing and with Simspeed TV. With tonight from myself, Ryan Jones, and Cameron Dance alongside me, and Joe Kennedy behind the scenes. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?